Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Spark of Genius Flesh and Blood Productions. We are finally here, part 6. I know everyone's been waiting impatiently for part 6. Now, probably waiting patiently for part 6 as we release the other 5 episodes here. In case you are jumping in at part 6, we do have part 1 through 5 already up on YouTube, and then the whole series will be uploaded on Spotify shortly after. For everyone who likes to listen to it on the car, in a car ride, transit, that kind of thing. If you like this content and other content, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe if you want to support the channel. It's free, it's easy, and you'll get notifications when all our stuff drops. So we're coming in here, card 54. This is all done chronologically, and we're going for the 54th card, and we're doing up to the last reveal, and we included a couple bonus cards at the end that weren't strictly revealed by content creators or like personalities or something like that, but it was revealed through pack crack box break. I don't know. I just like to rhyme the first one there.
That.
So it was revealed through other means. So I've included a couple of them that are a little bit more important to to go through in relation to a lot of the other cards we've talked about. So I figured it'd create more of a holistic point of view about the things we've seen so far. So card 54, Swing Big. So we've got our Brute card, with the other one that we're not going through being Rolling Thunder, which probably not even worth going through that card that much, but Swing Big is a great card here. So red Brute card, attack action coming in for 8, blocks 3. Brute card's the block for 3, am I right? Cost 2.
Yep.
If Swing Big doesn't hit, the defending hero creates a Quicken token when the combat chain closes. So this is something we haven't seen a lot of, like, effects that happen when they don't hit. So this is one of those cards. 2 for 8 in red is about is above average as far as like above curve.
Yeah.
Because usually you see a lot of like Command and Conquer 2 for 6s, things like that. Rally the Rear Guard, stuff like that.
Closest thing I think we have is 2 for 7, I think, in Smash with Big Tree, but that has no block.
Yep.
So
2-7 has no block.
Was already a high, stat to begin with, and then they had to remove the block, to make it, fair.
Yeah.
So so what they did is they 8. Yeah. Good.
They had to they added back in the block. They increased the damage, but then they created a conditional, essentially. You give them a Quicken when the chain, if it doesn't hit. So they give you the extra power, but that's only because of the defending mechanic here. So blocking for 8, depending on the deck you're versus, is easier or harder. It kind of really depends. It is a 6+ attack, so meaning Intimidate for Rhinar, banish targets for Levia, all good staple stuff. I think it'll work really well in the Brute decks we have. For KO, it's even better in my opinion because of the base 8 attack. So meaning on a KO roll hit, blocking this thing for 16 is going to be extremely hard for most, if not all, hero builds.
And this, I believe, is the highest statted card KO has access to, if I'm not mistaken, because Alpha Rampage was only for Rhinar. This is now the first card that you can get in KO that attacks for 8, so that's huge.
Yep. So coming in for 16 on KO. This card is decent into aggro decks that don't want to hit, that don't want it to hit because if they block with 3 cards, they like, chances are they can't use the Quicken anyways if they block with 3 cards. However, the issue is if they pass and keep the Quicken token and you can't put enough tempo to make them block, they can come back with a very strong 5-card hand with the Quicken token. So it's a bit of a ticking time bombs, like damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of situation. So when you're faced with that, you're like, oh, okay, so they just full block. If it's a control deck, they probably just full block anyways, regardless. But this card is good into control matchups or decks that go very tall, because they likely can't utilize the Quicken anyways. So you are getting a 3-for-1 on your attack, essentially, right? Because you're pitching in your attack, so you're getting rid of 1 card, which on Levia you can just banish again, so you're getting 2 cards out of 1 card, right? You get a resource from the grave and you get the 8 attack. And they will need either 2 cards in armor or a whole bunch of armor in a card, but they're giving up quite a few resources to block it. So I'd be a bit hesitant to bring this into an aggro matchup, unless I'm at the point of the game where them getting a Quicken is definitely worth the 1 turn off. To then keep the tempo up, right? So this card maybe seems a bit better in Rhinar and KO than it does in Levia, only because Levia does have a lot better on average red attack actions that are Shadow Brute cards, and so I feel like her red slots are a little bit more.
They're already taken.
Limited. However, I think it's a very good card in
Yeah.
Levia, and so that's why I think something will have to give there.
I think that in KO, actually, looking at this card, like it's great if it hits, but at the same time, if you half this, it becomes a 4,
Mhm.
which makes it a lot easier to block with a single card plus armor. So it might be an easier way, or rather, the detriment in KO might be actually quite bad here. But I think it's a fine card. I think the damage that you do get with this card is worth giving them the quicken.
Mhm.
Also, you're not just gonna pitch and swing with this. You're probably gonna have some setup on like a good hand where you do intimidate a few times maybe on Reinar and you swing with this, but
Mhm.
they only have one card left in hand, so they just cannot possibly block it.
Yep.
Getting some barragings off, intimidating a few times. So I think in that respect, it's really good. I'm a bit worried about KO just because of the 4 attack this could have, and then kind of giving them an easy quicken token, right?
Yeah, I think you want to just combine this card on your turns with Ready to Roll, right? The one that
Yeah,
lets you roll another dice,
that's fair. Yeah.
another die. And I think that will be like one of those key go off combos if you're able to get Ready to Roll, maybe in play Ready to Roll, roll off scabs, right? Get multiple action points, pitch, and then hit them with like, I don't know, this and something else. Like
Yeah.
ideally, that would be even just a 16, right? But like this and anything else, and you're able to roll 2 dice on KO on each one, right?
Yeah.
Because of Ready to Roll. So you can really maximize that with this attack.
And you really want to finish off with this attack, probably. You want to like have this attack for second instead of the first.
Yeah, probably like just like a blue and then this and like a 1 cost attack would probably be more ideal. Overall, we gave this card a 3, being average. It's a solid brute card. I don't see it as a must include. It's a nice to have.
Yeah.
However, that can change in different kind of builds. However, like, making this possibly a 3.5. However, for now, we see it as a 3.
Yeah, and two cost also works very nicely into Blood Rush. I think that stat line is actually pretty good. 3s are a bit clunky, so you want to aim for the 2s.
Yes. Yeah, 2s you can also pummel this card. Just FYI, sure. Like this is pummelable, so it's not that bad here.
You make the opponent kind of use 3 cards because they don't want the on hit or the lack of a hit, I guess, and then you pummel it. So they wasted 3 cards to block, and then you add a pummel. It's kind of mean.
Yeah. So next card we're coming up for is a Runeblade card, and the last Runeblade card we reviewed, Revel in Runeblood, was a hell of a card. We're seeing another hell of a card here in Swarming Gloomveil. So this is a red Runeblade attack action with 0 cost. Another 0 coster.
Yeah.
3 block, 3 power. If you've played or created 1 or more auras, it gains go again. 2 or more auras. Aura token. I think that's also fine. 2 or more, it gains +1. 3 or more, it gains. When this hits a hero, it can't prevent arcane damage from sources you control this turn. No null rune for you. That null rune 1 is now useless. So this is a very powerful card that isn't that hard to get off, right? So the minimum I ever see this coming in as is a 4 go again, which at 0 cost is already a great card.
Yeah,
because the additional cost you're doing anyways in your entire strategy, making these auras, right?
Yeah,
and so that's already great, but like having the 4 go again, and then that could be as simple as like Mordred Tide, create a rune chant. Like that's two off the bat, right? Yeah. You're already at 2 auras. Playing Mordred in any non-attack.
I mean, Mordred plus playing Swarming Gloomveil actually gives you 2 with Viscerize ability, right? So just Mordred into this card gives you the 2.
Yeah, Mordred into this card would give you the 2. Does it say? Does it already have to be created, or is it like on that? I guess it's.
Well, I think Viscera would trigger before the card text. Yeah, Viscera would trigger before this card, I believe. So this card text would only apply after Viscera has created the rune chance, I believe.
Yeah, so Mordred tied with that. Usually this like deck would play a lot of things like Marvin Skies, so you wouldn't really want to waste the go again there, but you can always do like a Marvin Skies after, like on creepers, that kind of thing. So pitching for Grasp, Runeblood Incantation, another new card coming in is an aura. Since this card says this turn, it can easily just be like the second or third attack you play. If some other attack actions generate rune chance, either on the play or on the hit, like with Marvin Skies, Meet and Greet, the combos they're endless, really. Like all of these just stack more and more and more rune chance, right? Which are all auras that feed into this. So it synergizes very well with the new Runeblade cards that came out, such as Runeblade Incantation, Revel in Runeblood that we mentioned earlier, Runic Reclamation, the other Majestic, it generates rune chant on hit. like 3 for 7 creates a rune chant. It's still okay if you Mauvrion skies that out and it hits.
Oh yeah.
It's a hard breakpoint to hit, right? So the theme with all these Runeblade cards in Everfest seem to be centered around playing and creating auras, right? This card is just the one that has the most upside to it. And this card is strong in all versions of Viscera, but specifically the aggro, tempo, and semi-OTK combo decks.
Yeah.
The deck is good in chain when using cards like Revel and Runeblood, albeit it's not as easy to pull off. However, it's still very strong because you can go very wide. There's just not as many ways to create auras as efficiently as in Viscera. But it's still 0 for 4 would go again off 2 auras. The card is good. I think the card is better in Briar than Chain, but not as good in Viscera. So it's good in Briar for the same reason as all the Runeblades at the very least can use Grasp. Yeah. But Briar also has embodiments. And so embodiments are auras that Briar creates. It doesn't have to be a Runeblade. It doesn't have to be like a Runeblade. A
rune
right?
chant.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a rune chant. So embodies are the auras. So a rune chant plus embodiment of lightning, or whenever you hit, you gain that embodiment of earth, right? Only one per, because of the errata, you only get the one for the turn, but that's already 2 auras, like in any of those, right? So it also synergizes well with Sting of Sorcery, which I actually forgot was an aura for an instant.
Me too.
It is, sorry, it's a non-attack. It's not an instant. However, it's Sting of Sorcery is an aura by itself to keep creepers alive with more arcane. So it's just such a strong card in all the Runeblades. And for that reason, I gave it a 5. Excellent. And I don't give 5 very lightly. The only other card I've given a 5 to is Scour in the other episode. No spoiler. I guess spoiler alert.
Yeah.
The other card I gave was a 5. It's just such a good card that you want 3 of in every deck in almost every iteration, right? It slots in and it slots in well into current and past iterations of all the Runeblades, and that's why I gave it a 5. Right, it's a bit of a must-have for a lot of decks. You don't absolutely need to build around it. However, it's also strong if you build around that aura generation. I can definitely see new decks coming out of that. So we give it a 5. Excellent. Only the second card to get that rating, illustrious rating, stamp of approval.
Yep.
So next we have a Guardian card. So Guardian cards have been kind of mixed into the more aggressive style and more control style based on what Guardian you're talking about and what playstyle the deck is going under. Nerves of Steel is a blue 3-cost Guardian aura non-attack action that blocks for 3. And when Nerves of Steel enters the arena, remove a -1 counter from a chest equipment you control. Battleworn and Temper, Temper being the keyword added in Crucible, I believe, and Battleworn being like the basic one that's being used in Welcome's Wraith. It doesn't trigger if it defends an attack with 2 or less power. When your heroes dealt damage, destroy Nerves of Steel. So this just stays on the board. It doesn't have like a timer.
Pretty nice, actually. Yeah.
So this card is very much a control aura-based deck staple, and a good card at buying time with equipment to set up larger turns. So this helps blocking pesky Kodachis, as well as all those nasty 2-power Benji attack actions that were being blocked by Guardian equipment using like Crater Fist, Tectonic Plating, even Skullcap. Removing a -1 counter is the equivalent of gaining 2 life, right? Because when you think about it, if the armor is blocked once, which is already nice, if they end up breaking the chain, you can also end up putting it back again and again and again, recycling, right? So when it comes in, because you can have 3 of these, is essentially what I'm trying to get at. Yeah. So you can keep recycling that counter, and each time you remove a -1, you get another 2 block out of the equipment that you wouldn't have got before, because you would have only got the 1 block and that's it, right? Definitely. So it's really good to use this after the first block on the equipment to maximize the value.
Your value,
Yeah, it is a 3-cost that works well with pitching also for a Nothos. Pitching for Hammer. It's not an ice, so there's no trigger on the Winter's Whale, but it's still a nice 3-costed card. It blocks for 3, obviously, so that's also nice on the defense. It can be searched with Imposing Visage, which we're going to talk about a bit later, to be put into play and ignore the fact that it doesn't have Go Again. So it's the same thing as like Stamp Authority, Showtime. Very strong auras don't have Go Again. I like this card in a more defensive aura build using cards like Stonewall Confidence, Forge for War, Showtime, Blessing, Emerging Dominance, Stamp Authority, Embolden, cards like that. To round out the deck here and try to search up these auras, gain value, and then come in for big swings to try to block out and use cards like Pulverize, a lot of the like Macho Grande, I'll call it Nacho Libre,
Yep.
Macho Grande coming in for these big kind of attacks. And I think that kind of deck can work quite well in the meta. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of my thoughts
It
about it.
also pairs very well into a card that we haven't talked about yet called Stalagmite, the shield that the Guardians now have access to. I guess Ice Guardians, because you can now block with it indefinitely and create frostbites. Right, as long as the chain's broken, you can keep using it and not trigger temper. So
Mhm.
that could be really good. Because the shield didn't look too good on its own. I mean, we can jump into the shield probably. I think it's the next
I
card
mean,
anyway.
the shield is the next card,
Yeah,
but
so
I see you
we'll
jumping
talk
the gun
about
a
it
bit
once it
here.
comes in. Once it comes in, yeah.
Yeah. No, that's also a fair point. We gave this a 3.5 is good. It's a good card that works for a very specific strategy. It could possibly be slotted into any Bravo, like either the old one or the new one, or possibly an Oldhim deck. I'm not as convinced in an Oldhim deck. However,
Mm-hmm.
it probably is possible, being a 3 cost blue.
Yeah.
However, in the old school Bravo with, or even the new Bravo, but the old Bravo with like Showtime and stuff like that, um, and the old school Welcome to Wraith Guardian cards, I think it'll slot in quite nicely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I guess you already kind of spoiled our next one. So why
Oops.
don't you give us the intro on
I'll give
Stalagmite
you
here?
my scoop. Okay, yeah. So Stalagmite. So Ice Guardian equipment, shield, blocks for 2. Very nice. And it says whenever you defend with Stalagmite, create a Frostbite token under the opponent's hero, or the attacking hero's control. And it has temper. So looking at this kind of at face value, the 2 block is awesome, but the temper makes it only usable twice, right? You block with it once for 2, block with it again for 1, and it's destroyed. The introduction of the Nerves of Steel makes this card actually really cool because you can now just keep blocking for 2. For example, if you are against Dash, I assume that I mean, she breaks the chain all the time when she reloads her items. So you can kind of continuously block with Stalagmite for 2, giving Frostbites, and then not triggering Temper with your Nerves of Steel. So Nerves of Steel with Stalagmite just shuts down Dash immediately. Like, there's nothing she can do. Much better than the Rampart Shield because it gives the Frostbite and it blocks for 2. So,
Mm-hmm.
and it's free. It's a free block. So, I think awesome card when paired with Nerves of Steel. Kind of mediocre when just by itself. That's my opinion. I don't know what you think, Harry.
No, that's fair. So yeah, as you said, at first glance, it doesn't seem better than Rams for Oldhim,
Mm-hmm.
given that the temper that the this Stalagmite has temper and Rams doesn't. Since Oldhim could efficiently block with Ram's head. However, the card we just talked about, kind of as you said, it doesn't allow the -1,
Mm-hmm.
and you can block out things like dash and really prolong the life of the bastion
Yeah.
if you're able to keep Nerves of Steel out, especially for multiple turns. So new Bravo and Oldhim can use this. Not old Bravo. Has to be
Right.
new Bravo because it is ice. I see this more as a sideboard shield into certain matchups for use in Bravo, as you said, Dash being one of them.
Yeah. I mean, great into Ninja
Um,
as well, I assume, because of Kodachi hits.
great
Honestly,
into Ninja.
like, if you're playing Blitz, like an auto include against Benji. This just destroys
Mm-hmm.
Benji. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
No, totally agree here. I think, you know, you could bring this into Ninja, but it was like for Oldhim, what Ninja wasn't an issue to
That's
begin
true.
with.
It
Like
wasn't like a hard matchup anyway, really.
yeah, we give it a 3. It's more of a sideboard piece. I don't see this as being absolutely necessary. If you have it, slot it in. If decks like Dash and Ninja are very popular in your meta, feel free to kind of slot it in and see how it goes. But it's not by any means required, especially because at the moment this is the cold foil legend, one of the cold foil legendaries in the set, so it's
Yeah.
not going to be that cheap.
No.
And so
Yeah.
yeah, don't feel pressure to particularly get it ASAP.
It's not a must-have. Yeah.
Yeah, rolling into T-Bone here. Why don't you start us off with T-Bone?
T-Bone.
I like you doing the intros for all the mech cards.
That's right. My main class. So T-Bone. So first of all, understand it. I'll say. So it's a 0 cost. I'm talking about the red one here. 0 cost. Red attacks for 3, blocks for 3. So 0 for 3 is a little under curve. You have 0 to 60 being 0 for 4 automatically. So.
Mhm.
But the effect of T-Bone might be worth running it. So it says if you control a card in the combat chain that was boosted, the defending hero must defend T-Bone with an equipment that they control if able. So very good against heroes that can't afford to block with equipments. It really forces them to break Tunic, if they have to. And I mean, there's a lot of cards. I guess it can also target spellbound creepers too. Blocks for one. I think it's also a blade break.
Hmm.
So I think it's a good card. I would probably I'd probably try to fit it in. There are a few reds that aren't necessary. I think Combustible Courier is one that you might want to swap this out for. It being a zero cost though is pretty good in Blitz because your main game plan is probably trying to get off the maximum velocity. So zero cost boost is very good for that game plan. I would automatically include this in Blitz for sure because of that. In CC though, there's a place for it. There are some reds that you can replace in Classic Control Dash that'll make this, a direct upgrade. I think,
Hmm.
but I think the effect is worth it. Even though it's 0 for 3, the effect is worth running it.
Yeah, so I see the card as like a slightly weaker 0 to 60 with an effect. Irrelevant effect most of the time. I just see this really as a zero cost boost that's good for high octane. As you said, it's good for maximum
High octane as
velocity.
well. Yeah,
Yep. I probably see this as honestly a 6 or 9 of in the reds and blues and some of the yellows for Prism, just because as you said, you can cut attacks such as Combustible Courier. Another one I thought of is High Speed Impact.
yeah,
As a T-bones just give you better value on those big bursty kind of turns that you need it to. The blues can cut, Pour the Mold or something like that. I keep talking about Pour the Mold. I don't
yeah.
hate Pour the
I
Mold.
mean,
It's
Pour
just
the
like one of
Mold
those
is a
cards.
card that you don't run very often. It's
Mhm.
it's only because you need more stuff against Bolton,
Yeah.
really.
No,
But
yeah, the non-attacks are bold, and it's
you
true.
never
But
use it for
overall,
the
it's a
ability.
solid.
It's a pure pitch card, really.
Yeah, exactly. Overall, it's a solid card. It's not fancy, but it's better than a lot of the options that Dash had
Yeah,
before. Because I feel like Dash was kind of padding the deck a bit with these kind of
yeah,
semi-okay cards, and so for that reason, we gave it a 3.5 good because 0 to 3 with boost alone is a good reason to run a
yeah.
card, especially with a lot of the um, very very wide turns with all the
Hmm.
action points and the pistols and the high
And
octanes,
it's
right?
also nice
So we
that
get
T
3.
Bone kind of works with itself too. You can play multiple T Bones; they all have boosts, and then you can force the opponent to block with equipments multiple times in one turn.
Yep.
So, I think it's a good reason to run it too.
Yep, for sure. We're on to our last card reveal card, and because of it, I put the Kasai poster in here. I keep swapping with the Benji and Kasai depending on the specializations we're talking about in that episode, if we talk about them. So here we're talking about blood on our hands. Now, what an artwork on the card! Like that is a stark image there of
For
Kasai.
Yeah, I was gonna
That's
say for the longest time until I was convinced just now. I thought that she was literally holding like someone's face in her hands, like she literally
yeah.
ripped off someone's face after killing them,
But then you
with
look
the
at the card,
eyeballs and
blood.
everything in there too.
Yeah, see blood on her hands. She's literally holding blood, and the reflection is her
it
face, right?
I gotta say it looks less like a reflection and more like someone's face, but that makes a lot of
That's
sense
fair.
if you put it that way.
Yeah,
It's gotta be. She's not some kind of barbarian as far as I
she's
know.
not from the
She's not a
Savage
brute.
Lands.
She's not a
She's
brute.
not from the Savage
It's
Lands.
very brute
So this
like to do
is
this. Yeah. Anyway.
yeah, this is the Kasai specialization. It's a zero cost yellow pitch, blocks for 3 warrior non-attack action with go again, of course.
Yeah.
So a couple things here as an action cost to play it. You can destroy any number of coppers you control. For each copper destroyed this way, choose a mode. You can choose each mode twice.
Hmm.
Target one-handed weapon has +1 while attacking. Target one-handed weapon has go again while attacking this turn. Target one-handed weapon may attack twice this turn. So you need 6 copper in total to fully trigger this, right? Because you need 2, 2, and 2.
Yeah.
Which isn't hard at all now that cards like High
I'm
Striker
thinking of
are a
High
thing,
Striker. And this
as
won't
well
work with
as
silvers, unfortunately. There's no conversion
no,
rate that you can just swap out silvers for
no,
two
yeah.
coppers. So
There's no exchange rate. No, this
no.
is copper all the way
So you
here.
gotta use coppers. Yeah.
Yeah, you need 6 coppers to fully trigger it, as we kind of said there. Red High Striker gives you 6 on the bat, as well as cards like Spoils of War, Size Ability, Outland Skirmish, which is a card we didn't talk about, was a warrior non-attack action that creates copper on hit.
Hmm.
This actually makes generating money a legit win condition for Kasai, which I was struggling to find the reason money generation is
Yeah.
good. This is why it's good, right? I think Kasai actually has got some solid cards to set as far as young heroes go. Um, it's fully activated. Both sabers can attack twice. They both gain go again. They both gain +1.
Yeah.
So with with no other cards and only a blue to pay for the swords, because the second swing is free. So out of the 4 swings, the second one is free, and the other ones cost 1 each. That's why
Right.
it's the 1 blue.
So one blue. Yeah.
Yeah, with blood on our hands, you can come in for 12 off 4 swings, assuming they don't block with an attack action. If they do, sword is buffed by 1 for the turn. So it could be buffed by 1, so you're getting 2 more damage and 2 more damage, so it would be another 4 damage. This in turn adds onto the Kasai ability since you attack 2 or more times weapons, so you can gain up to 4 copper if they all hit.
Yeah.
Right, so it can keep fueling that. Outland Skirmish also gains that copper on hit if you've played it beforehand. This combined with cash-ins to gain card advantage actually makes Kasai go wide turns feel really, really good.
Yeah.
Other than praying for Spoils of War turn. Just praying on the card,
right.
Eventually you get your cash-in. Combined with the extra Kasai support cards like Oath of Steel, In the Swing, Blade Runner, Slice and Dice. I think Kasai's looking mighty fine in Blitz if she can get the tempo rolling. And so the card itself, we gave a rating of 4, being good. It's a good card that's must-have if you want to run Kasai. You need 2 of these. You're doing yourself an injustice.
This is the first time we've seen like money having an actual like good strategy here, because otherwise, like you mentioned, there wasn't really much besides card draw with cash in maybe that you could really use the coppers and just the coppers for, I guess, right? But with this card now you can just I guess you can cash in those coppers, but in a lot better of a way here. So
yeah,
I really like it.
You could definitely like save it up for like one of those big turns when you have the proper buffs to really get rolling here.
Yeah.
And in Blitz, because people start at lower health, you don't even need as much to kill them, right? Like you don't need to set up these massive Saber Bolton turns to like OTK them. So that was the end of the regular card reveals. We have a couple now that we're going to move on to that were revealed from the pack/box breaks, right? So Imposing Visage, we kind of mentioned it a little bit before. A blue guardian non-attack action with a block of 3, cost X3. I haven't said that one before.
X3 is the first time we've seen X3, I believe. Yeah.
Search your deck for an aura with cost X or less. Put it into your arena and shuffle. So that usually means paying 3. So you declare X is 3, pay a blue, and then it will cost
1.
Well, it'll cost nothing, right? It's going to be it's going to be replacing the actual cost of the aura, but the key is it gets around go again. The fact there's no go again, right? So this card is going to be a pillar in the heavier guardian aura builds like Bravo, possibly Oldhim, but I'm thinking mainly Bravo here. It gets around the fact that a lot of the strong 3-cost auras in like Bravo, they don't have go again. So Nerves of Steel we talked about before, Stamp Authority, Showtime, Emerging Dominance, these don't have go again, but they're very, very strong cards. So this card is excellent for fixing your opening turn, which happens a fair bit in heavier blue decks, right? So auras that have extra face-up value for this set, for setup, are very good when you don't have to give up tempo, though the best ones don't have go again. For example, Imposing Visage can get you Showtime turn 1 if you don't have a good attack action in your arsenal, and give you that extra card for the following turn that gives you more blocking, or just a very big comeback turn, right? So you can block with a card knowing that you're going to get 1 card back, kind of thing. Another example is if you are against a deck with a lot of on hits, to grab Stamp Authority. If you have 2/3 costs to trigger the extra intelligence, which you can easily use for Imposing Visage, right? So as X being 3, and then pay 2 with 2/3 costs and grab Stamp Authority. So that's also a possibility here. And then you can come back with the extra intelligence for a really massive hand, because you could be drawing up to 5, right?
Right.
Already have a good attack action you want to play out, and you want to get some like tempo and on it, so you can grab Emerging Dominance, right? To ensure even if you block out, you can still come through with Dominate. And that one only costs 2, so you can actually use one of your floating resources for like a plating, pitch a 3, get Imposing out, use the other 2, pay for this, and that's all fine and dandy, right? So I think Aura Guardian decks in general got some nice additions coming through Everfest, and this is the card that lets you enable them and build a bit more of a critical mass to like play the deck out consistently, I feel. So this adds a lot of consistency to that kind of genre, which I feel like was missing completely, because otherwise you're a bit of a crapshoot trying to figure out which aura is which when you're trying to actually build out your value town board, as I like to call it, your value board. This kind of deck, the only negative I see is to shuffle, right? So the end of the thing is you have to shuffle your deck after you get the same thing with like Showtime and stuff like that. You have to shuffle your deck. So getting it on like turn one doesn't really matter as much, but if you're trying to pitch stack later in the game for second and third cycle, this does break your pitch stack, right? So getting it super early, I think is really good. Turn one, turn two, maybe turn three, and onwards is not as good here. But this kind of deck is definitely playing for that extra cycle. It is not going to come up on average with some really, really big swings. You're going to be trying to set up those guaranteed hits and that guaranteed value. So that's kind of the only negative I see with this card. Overall, we give it a 4. It's a good card. Yeah. It's a good card that you can use as a building piece at 3 of in an aura deck. I'm not entirely sure how good this kind of deck will be in the meta, as well as the shuffling aspect I'm not a big fan of. So those are the reasons why it's a 4 and not higher.
That's true. Yeah.
Imposing Visage, great card. So got another mech card coming in, Teklo Pounder.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, take it away.
Teklo Pounder. Okay, so starting off, this is a 2-cost item. It is blue, with no block, just like every other item that Dash has, pretty much, like the induction chambers and the purifiers. Same cost too, right? So kind of in line with those. Not a red though, which is nice because you could pitch it, which was very hard to do when you drew a bunch of items with Dash initially with the other two, and then it's like, well, now I gotta hold on to them pretty much. So it says, when Teklo Pounder enters the arena, Teklo Pounder enters the arena with 3 steam counters on it, and when Teklo Pounder has no steam counters on it, destroy it. Once per turn effect, whenever you boost an attack action card, remove a steam counter from Teklo Pounder, and if you do, the attack gains +2. So immediately you can look at how much value this could give you. Removing 3 steam counters for 2 damage each is 6. 2 for 6, I mean, that sounds pretty reasonable. It's CNC level, 2 for 6. That's pretty much vanilla stats for 2 costs, I would say. Now, I wonder how much of a place this has in Control Dash, because, you can look at, because Dash can do a multitude of things. She can go Control, she can go Aggro and Blitz. I think in CC, this has less of a place because the 6 damage doesn't really mean much. Dash's main goal is to set up items late game and, occasionally boost here and there, but the Teklo Pounder, it's not a May effect, it's you have to. So, if you're going with, like, I don't know, if you're hitting with a 0 to 60 at some point, you have to use the counter. So you can't just save this, like, till the end of the game unless you just don't attack. So I don't see this card being that useful in Control. The 6 damage is pretty meaningless until you get your items out, in which case your end game is really to just have a bunch of items and just outvalue your opponent until you win. I would say in Blitz it's okay. You could start with this item in Blitz, so it is 6 damage up front if you start with this item, which is nice. And the other card that you would fight for that slot would be the Teklo Core, which arguably a little better if you are aiming for maximum velocity.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think that, this is obviously more of a Blitz card. I don't think it really has much of a place in CC. So I would kind of put it as, not great, a pretty average card.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I agree with you. The stat line is fine, like, overall. It's also one benefit. It's not like if you're playing against a deck with, like, Smash in Good Time or Arc Smash, you're likely to get more value up front compared to Chamber Purifier. Yeah. So you're kind of playing around. You're playing around, they're playing around, kind of thing. It's a little bit awkward here.
It's like, do you waste your Arc Smash on this card, right? Because I've already used 1 or 2 Steam counters. It has 1 left or something. It's like, do you bother destroying this?
I kind of agree with you. I don't like it in current Dash builds. It's very hard to make the space for this card over some of the items we've reviewed earlier, some of the blue items. Other than pure damage, it doesn't provide an on hit. Dash's boost cards don't have particularly good on hits anyways. They don't they don't inhibit the opposing hero from going through with their game plan. Yeah. So the extra damage doesn't really, now I'm going to break points. If there's this on hit, you really have to be worried, kind of thing. I think this card is good in boost Dash, as you said, in Blitz. CC, I don't see it as much, so you can particularly start instead of Teklo, no matter what, the extra damage will be good, because you're trying to push damage regardless. Probably only going second. I don't think it's as good going first when they just full block, unless you get really lucky with strong boost cards early and then leak some damage off the extra pips because you're getting the +2, right? I don't think it's as good going first. Going second, I do think it has some merit. On average, we gave it average, which is a 3.
Right.
It's a fine card in a couple situations, but it isn't anything remarkable at the moment.
Yeah.
So next card we're going to be looking at is Shatter. So Shatter, warrior Warrior attack reaction, yellow 0 cost 3 block. Until end of turn, target two-handed weapon. That's key because a lot of the stuff we've been looking at before is one-handed weapon. So this is two-handed weapon. A little bit of Dawnblade support.
Yeah, finally
Go
some
figure.
Dory love, maybe.
Well, a
We'll
little
see
bit
if the
maybe.
card's good.
Whenever this would deal physical damage, instead you may destroy a defending equipment with armor less than the damage that would be dealt this way. So, thematically speaking, the card effect makes sense because you're kind of, shattering through equipment used for defending. It's pretty easy to play out on Dawnblade or Raiden, I guess. Being a 0 cost,
yeah.
being a yellow, it's also good for breaking library on Prism. That's kind of where the usefulness ends, in my opinion. Ideally, for this card to be good, it would need to be able to destroy any equipment, not only the defending equipment, so that you
that's
can
how I
hit that
read it.
key equipment piece.
Honestly, I think if you remember, that's how I was like. I read this card and I was like, it destroys any equipment if it hits. That's amazing.
You got too hyped.
I got way too hyped. Then I said, okay, defending equipment. So then I was like, all right, that's kind of bad. Yeah.
Yeah, it's only defending equipment, so that to be good here, it needs to hit that key equipment piece that the opposing hero really values or needs for the game plan. Think of things like Bloodsheath, Tectonic, things like that, right? So it's important to not. It's important that equipment defending does not get the -1 counter for Temper Battle Worn until the combat chain closes, right? That's important to note here because
the damage dealt.
The damage dealt is on the chain, and so as far as shatter is concerned, that armor is still going to be a 2 for a 2-block piece, right? So that's something to consider. So to break 2 armor equipments, it would need to go over by 3 because it's not equal or greater; it's greater. So you need to be doing 3 damage to the opponent here. So generally, a red attack reaction will get it done.
Yeah.
However, if the only block is out of the arsenal or armor or both, and something like an Iron Song response won't work because there's no reprise. In this case, you're looking for something like an Out for Blood, Stroke of Foresight, Razor Reflex. At minimum, it's going to be a 1 cost plus 3.
Yeah.
So if your opponent happens to not know what Shatter does, or doesn't think you run it, on the turn they block with their pivotal armor that is worth breaking, assuming it's like a 2 armor that I mentioned before, you would need a blue and yellow pitch to swing with Dawnblade, Shatter, and a red reaction that doesn't rely on reprise. for consistency's sake, right? Just on average.
Yeah.
It's not too hard to get that off, albeit you might have to craft your hand a little bit. You need less if they do block with armor plus something from hand to turn reprise on, because then you might have Iron Song response, or they're blocking with armor that only has 1 armor, in which case you only need to get over by a smaller amount, by 2 or something like that, right? Instead of 3. But I believe a player with experience playing into Dorinthia at some level will understand how to properly block out Dorinthia threats to the point that I would not be able to rely on this in anything more than like an armory event, in my opinion, right? Because half of Dorinthia's strength is not knowing what Dorinthia is coming in with.
The strength of this card, I think you just said it actually. The strength of this card is really just it being an option that people have to think about. Because originally, if you wanted to turn off reprise, you would just block with a few items, a few equipment pieces, and then not really worry about her reprise cards. This card kind of gives you something to think about, because if you're just blocking with Tectonic Plating, and she has a way to gain +3 attack without reprise, you just lose your plating for the whole game. So I like the fact that this card exists. I don't know if I like running it that much. But it's still a yellow pitch that you could use for Dory. Dory doesn't necessarily rely on that much, blue, to be honest. So, but yellow is pretty good. It's kind of in that Twinning Blade category where it's a card that gives her more tech, and it's a yellow and it costs 0, which is awesome. Blocks for 3 too, so you don't have to use it. Might be like a 1-of just to pose a threat, but I think it's cool that it exists. I do like the card. It's not amazing.
Yeah, we gave it average 2.5. It can do work, but I do not like cards whose value is circumstantial depending on how the opponent plays into the matchup, right? I prefer reliability. Instead of hoping my opponent blocks with armor on the turn, I actually have enough setup, and hoping I actually get enough damage. There's too many variables in this card. I like to reduce the amount of variation here in decks that I want to run.
But it's very flavorful though for Dory. It kind of it really leads into her play style of being a very reactionary hero. So you
Yep.
are a lot of what you do depends on what the hero does because of your reprise ability, now your shatter, twinning blade, right? All those cards are all reactionary. So
Mhm.
it really leads into like her flavor overall, which I think is cool.
No, I totally agree. So 2.5 on that one. We are heading into our last card review, card number 63. Just as a side note here, we're not going to be going over the heroes
Hmm.
because there's just not really enough to talk about, given that A, we can probably talk forever not knowing what is actually good or bad.
Hmm.
And two, I think some builds probably have to surface before we can really assess the full kind of qualities. I think we would save those heroes for like a hero profile kind of video. I
Yeah,
don't
or
think
just
it gives
gameplay in
us
general. We'll be
gameplay,
trying
hero
out
profile.
heroes.
Yeah.
We'll
Oh
get to
yeah.
showcase them
Well,
better in gameplay. Yeah,
yeah, I'll be building stuff like Icelander and Bravo and the new Bravo for sure, and
yeah,
we'll be looking at them in those kinds of content. We're not going to be looking at them as like a review.
yeah.
And so, with that being said, our last card is Shimmers of Silver. So this is an illusionist card. So this is one of those blue zero cost illusionist cards we've been hearing so much about. 2 block, has Spectra, of course.
Hmm.
Once per turn effect, whenever you attack with an illusionist or a weapon, put a +1 counter on it.
Yeah.
This is once per turn. So it is a once per turn effect here. So
Oh,
Luminaris makes all. Yeah, I know, right?
I thought it was for every
Luminaris
attack.
makes.
That's yeah,
No. That would be a good card.
yeah,
Luminaris makes all illusionist aura weapons. So like Luminaris already turns everything into weapons. Essentially, is what I'm saying. So
yeah.
spectral shields can be counted in here.
Hmm.
Kind of reminds me of Glisten, but the counters don't go away. Even though on Prism for like spectral shields,
Yeah.
um, as such, they didn't go away anyways because it reverted back to an aura token from a weapon as far as like the glisten interaction. So you can add
Hmm.
like 4 tokens with a red glisten, give your
Yeah.
spectral shield those tokens, and with Luminaris you can attack with it, and then it reverts back to a aura, so it just keeps the counters anyways. So it wasn't that much of an issue here. However, glisten costs 2 and shimmer costs 0 and blocks,
And it's a
whereas
blue.
glisten doesn't block, and it's a blue. So I have to think here: how scared of this aura am I playing against it? It
Yeah.
doesn't have go again, nor is it an instant. So if they play this out, they have to end with it, or play this and another instant 4 cost aura after, or another instant like Prismatic Shield. It has synergies with cards like Coalescence Mirage. That is a very difficult card to pronounce.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's the one where when it's destroyed, you could put Shimmers into play.
Right.
Essentially, like if you pop with Phantasm, you can put a 0 cost aura like Shimmers.
Right.
Crown of Reflection, that card we reviewed before that I wasn't too hot on, replacing a Spectral Shield or something for Shimmer.
Yeah.
Uh, the actual +1 per turn isn't particularly scary unless you keep it stacking, and for some reason the opponent cannot manage to pop it. Pop
Right.
either the Spectra or do enough damage to remove that
Yeah.
particular Spectral Shield.
Yeah.
It would be nice if you can like possibly move half of the counters or something to another aura and play when it dies.
That would
Like
have
that
been
would be
cool.
a yeah, that would have been like kind of. I don't think that's particularly broken. I think it's actually rewards that kind of playstyle.
Hmm.
Overall, I probably don't bother popping Shimmer with a Spectra, or I just pop it with
Yeah.
Scour if I'm on Kano and I just laugh with the rest of the Spectral
Yeah.
Shields, right?
Yeah.
I don't really see the merit in like an Iris Reality build with this. It's the same kind of issues. Um, I gave this a 2, and I was kind of
Hmm.
surprised giving it a 2. I thought it would be a lot more hype than this.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be that once per turn +1, or I thought it would be at least an instant or something like that. Maybe not a 0 cost instant, but I thought it would have something. The
Yeah.
the baseline stats of this to be an M seems a little eh. It could be okay if you have the right support, but it's a bit lackluster for that slot compared to the other Majestics, especially.
I think that okay, the illusionist was due for a bad majestic. Let's be honest. Another cool
Speaking as a blue
interaction.
player,
Yeah, that's right. Another interaction with this is if you have two of them in play, and they're both considered weapons because of Luminaris, you can just buff each other.
but like
The shimmers buff each other. They can both attack.
like it's probably it's so hard to get one of these off and not just like torpedo your own turn.
Yeah,
Like you have
it's
to
true.
you
The
have
no
to
go
have the
again.
turn.
What if they gave it
Yeah,
go again? How broken would that be? It'd be a lot better, I
they
think.
gave it'd be a lot better, but being a 0 cost with go again seems a little bit too strong because
Yeah,
then
you
you can
just pop them down and then no issues.
yeah, you can. So what you can do is you can use that, and then you can pitch to create a spectral prism or something, then play down prismatic shield and have all your force
That's true.
shields can go again. The
Yeah.
the the issue, the main issue with this isn't the go again. I see the main issue is that you can only do it once per turn.
Yeah,
Like it's only. I'm not crazy, right? No, it's
but
plus. It's a
it would
+1
be.
counter.
Yeah, I think maybe you're right. Actually, if it gave everything +1, let's say,
Mhm.
You can't play this before you swing with all of your auras. So, it's kind of not that bad, or not even that broken, I should say. Like, you can't just pop this down for free and then swing with like 8 spectral shields for 8 damage, 8 extra damage. It's like
Yeah.
you have
No,
to play this
that
at
would be
the
a very
end of your
rich run.
swing because it doesn't have go again. So your opponent has a turn to react to it if they want to destroy it. And this thing isn't safe by any means. It can be targeted by any attack. It gets destroyed. So it could have been
No, that's true.
interesting if it was multiple times
Yeah.
per turn.
Yeah. But it is the once per turn effect. So
It's a very
mm,
turtley kind of card. I feel it's like you really got to be
uh,
building your auras. Yeah.
I'm calling it. No, I don't like the card. Maybe someone's gonna prove that I'm an idiot. That's completely okay.
Hmm.
Speaking of proving myself as being an idiot here, if you disagree with any of the comments, you agree with the comments, you have anything to add, feel free to comment in the video. We appreciate any, if you like the content, leave a like, maybe subscribe if you wanna help the channel grow. If you wanna, you know, contribute without having to, there's no paywall or anything like this. There's no Patreon, no nothing. Everything we do is just for the viewers essentially, right? So if you have any comments about any of our videos, please feel free to reach out, let us know. With that, me and Rob are going to give our throats a bit of a rest out of recording about three and a half. How long is it? 3.5 hours of footage here
Probably around, yeah.
for all the parts. So with
Roughly.
that, with that, hope everybody enjoyed the entire series as well as the final episode here. These will be available on Spotify probably a little bit later. And with that, no matter where you're watching it in the world and oh my God, my voice is done.
Yeah.
No matter where or when you're watching it, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. I know I'm already saying that incorrectly. It should be have a good night, have a good morning, have a good evening. Sorry. Have a good morning, have a good afternoon, have a good evening.
Gotta get
However, I've
that
already
order
screwed
there.
up.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've already screwed up, so I'm just gonna go with it. That's okay. Hope everybody appreciated the content. See everyone in the next episode.